Welcome. Today we're diving into something really curious, a phenomenon reported within a specific spiritual community that kind of blurs the line between what's physical and what's, well, spiritual. Okay, let's be honest. We've all been there, right? You're in a lecture hall, the lights are kind of low, the speaker's voice is just a steady hum, and suddenly your eyelids feel like they're made of lead. You start doing that slow head bob, it's a struggle we all know. But just imagine for a second that it's got nothing to do with being tired or bored. What if that overwhelming urge to just knock out was actually something else entirely? Maybe even a force that's actively trying to stop you from hearing what's being said. So let's put a name to this. Within communities that study the divine principle, they don't just call it being tired, they have a specific term for it. They call it sleepy spirits. And here's the core of it. We are not talking about just gently drifting off. The people who describe this talk about a powerful, almost oppressive wave of drowsiness that makes it nearly impossible to focus or absorb anything. But here's where it gets really strange. The timing. This mental fog, as they call it, doesn't just show up randomly. It hits right at the most crucial moments. You know, just when a key concept is being explained or a huge revelation is about to be shared. It's like someone's hitting the mute button on your brain at the exact worst moment.
So that bizarre timing, of course, raises the big question. Why? Why does this happen? What is actually going on here?
All right, let's get into the theories. And the first one, it's pretty dramatic. The idea here is that this has nothing to do with your body or being bored. It's seen as a direct spiritual attack, an outside force that is actively trying to interfere. So the thinking goes like this. If you believe the divine principle contains a powerful truth, then it kind of makes sense that negative forces, these so-called fallen spirits, wouldn't want you to hear it. So the drowsiness isn't just a random side effect. It's a weapon, a tactic designed to stop you from having that big aha moment. Okay, so that's the external spiritual attack theory. But there's another way to look at this. What if the interference isn't coming from the outside at all? What if it's coming from inside your own head, as a reaction to the ideas themselves? I mean, think about it. These teachings are often asking people to completely reevaluate their entire worldview. History, God, humanity, the whole shebang. That's some serious mental heavy lifting, and it's exhausting. So this theory frames the drowsiness as your brain's emergency shutoff switch, a cognitive circuit breaker to protect itself from a total system overload. So you see the two competing ideas, right? On one hand, you've got an external, spiritual force trying to sabotage you. On the other, your own mind is hitting the brakes to protect itself. One is a malicious attack, the other is self-preservation. Two totally different explanations for the exact same feeling. So we've got the spiritual and the psychological. But, we have to consider the simplest explanation of all, the purely practical, down-to-earth factors. I mean, let's be real, these workshops can be super intense. We're talking long hours, sitting in an enclosed, usually pretty comfortable room, and the topics themselves are so emotionally heavy that alone can be draining. But for the people who experience this, especially when it happens over and over again at those exact critical moments, they say that simple explanation just doesn't feel like enough. It feels like more.
So when you're faced with this strange slumber, what do? Well, people don't just give in to it. They've actually developed specific strategies to fight back.
And it's a full-on counterattack. Spiritually, they use prayer to ask for protection. Mentally, it's about pure willpower, forcing yourself to focus on why the lecture is so important. Physically, they'll stand up, move around, anything to jolt the system. And finally, there's the community angle, sharing the struggle with others for that collective strength. So where does that leave us? What's the big takeaway here? Well, it seems like no matter how you look at it, whether you think it's spiritual, psychological, or just physical, the experience itself points to something pretty significant. And that's really the heart of it, because whether you see it as a spiritual attack, a cognitive defense mechanism, or just being plain tired, all the theories point to the same thing. This sleepy spirits phenomenon is a sign of an incredibly intense engagement with the material. Ultimately, that's what it comes down to. It's a deep engagement that's being met with an equally powerful force of resistance, whatever its source may be. And that resistance shows up in a very real, very physical way. That undeniable wave of sleep. And that leaves us with a final thought. one that goes way beyond this specific topic. For any deeply held belief, for any challenging idea, how do we really tell the difference between what our body is feeling, how our mind is reacting, and what our spirit might be experiencing? It's a question worth pondering.